Hello, this is McCook's Mr. Bill. It's an honor to have you here. You're on channel Donzie52 on YouTube. Well, throughout your life you're going to have battles. You'll never know when they're going to show up and how they're going to show up. But how you fight those battles are going to determine how well you do in life, or how you even survive. I know a lot of people speak of using a knife as a self-defense weapon. I'm amazed less than 1% of the people I've ever spoken to that talked about defending themselves with a knife, only 1% ever said they practiced fighting with a knife, rubber knife, what have you. And I always tell everybody that you need at least 200 bouts with a rubber knife fighting different individuals for different styles to get used to using a knife in a combat situation and to save your life. 200 minimum, in my opinion, before you consider using a knife as a self-defense weapon. Other people will speak of using a firearm. Of course, all I carry is BB guns. But a BB gun, or whatever firearm you use, again, it's a real easy point and shoot. But then the trouble starts. Because you're going to have to prove to a judge and a jury that you didn't use excessive force. You're going to have lawyers, and you're going to have the news media beat you up, calling you a Rambo, and a lot worse if there's a different color than you are that you've shot. I always say violence is the last thing you use in a battle. Example, I had a neighbor come over one day, and he said, "You know, I want to buy a deer license on the internet. I want you to help me." And I said, "Yeah, I'll do that for you." And so we came into the computer room, and I punched it up, and we bought him a deer license, $35. Well, when it showed up, it was for the wrong area. He looked at it and agreed it was right. I looked at it and I thought it was right, but it was wrong. It was wrong. Well, he came back, and he was drunk, and I mean really drunk and mad. And he wanted to fight. He wanted to fight because he was so angry that I had not caught it, even though he was standing right there at the same time. And so what I did, I just took my billfold and I handed him out of my own money, $35. I paid him. I said, "There, now you have nothing to complain about. I'll take the full hit on it." And that's what I did. I paid the $35 to stop violence, and even though I could have taken him, there's no question fighting a drunk man is reasonably easy. But at the same time, or calling the cops, all sorts of trouble that might have ensued, it only cost me $35 to stop that problem from escalating. Okay? I was over the junior high for 22 years, and so many stories I have. But one of the classics battles that I had was a junior high kid, real mouthy kid that year, a bully. And he came up to the candy truck at noontime. I parked there, selling snow cones for a quarter. And as he got up there, there was about 20 kids that followed him. So I knew something must be up for them to come in that kind of a grouping. And as he got up to the candy truck, he said, "How often do you have sex with your mother?" And I didn't even blink. I just said back to him, "Not nearly as often as you have sex with your father." The crowd erupted in a roar and made fun of him, and he felt and looked and felt mentally that small. He had been defeated. I didn't need violence to get out there and chase him around, curse him, or hit him, and I'd been done as Mr. Bill and maybe even in jail. I didn't need a teacher to come out here and make him stop saying that stuff about my mother, which that is total disrespect. I didn't need a cop to arrest him for saying hate speech of some kind or t'other. I didn't need any of that. I shut it down. And after that, that kid started being my friend. And now we speak nicely of each other, and he's one of the big shots here in McCook. But that's what I did on that day. I fought the battle without violence of any kind, or evil and naughty words. I'll finish it with this. I was down in Kansas City visiting my daughter. She took us to a mall. I'm not a mall person. I don't care for that kind of stuff. And so I sat out front on a cement bench there next to a bus stop. Just watch the people go by. As I was sitting there, a man came up, a black man came up, and sat down on the same bench. Now he was wearing what I would call an Arabic dress. And so I asked the question, I said, "Sir, are you from the Middle East?" And he said, "No." He said, "I was born and raised in Kansas City." And I said, "Okay." And then he said what he was, including the word Muslim. And I said, well, I apologize for my lack of wisdom on this subject, but I said, the only thing I know about Muslims is them, the Muslim, and the Jews are having trouble over there in the Middle East. And he said, well, there won't be any trouble in the future. And I said, yeah, I hope you're right. And he said, as soon as we kill all the Jews in the world, and we kill all the white people in the world, there will be peace on earth. I will never forget it, his statement. And I could have gotten angry or fought the battle in a different direction, but this is how I fought the battle. I said, well, sir, when you and your Muslim friends come through southwest Nebraska killing white folks, you might want to bring up a whole bunch of extra people. Because you see, out here, we have coyote hunters and prairie dog hunters. And they be shooters. I kid you not. And unlike the cops back east that couldn't hit the broadside of a barn if they was standing inside it, the old shooters out here can start shooting at you at a mile away. I kid you not. I got up and I walked away. And I hope that statement rang true to him just a little bit, that it would be very expensive to try to take out and to do what he had suggested they wanted to do to make peace on this earth. But that's some of the battles I've fought. I have a whole bunch of others. But I hope you consider, before using weapons for your battle, to use your mouth and your own wisdom. Rate this film.